this place is big, I'm totally lost. How will I ever find my way around?
All right, ladies, you've located your roommates. I suggest you get together in small groups and introduce yourselves to each other and tell your new friends a little something about your background. So, how'd you end up here?
Well, I come from a small family. Well, you can't really come from a smaller family. There was just my mom and me, and sometimes there was a dog or two. Growing up was pretty intense. If one of us got mad at the other, there was no place to hide. There was no other person around to take your side or even hear you out. If there was a fight, you were in for some long, alone time. So pretty soon we found out we had to learn to get along. Once we had that figured out, my mom was there for me all the way. It was like I had my own cheering squad. So to sort of say thanks for all the backing, I tried my best to do the right thing, which included working really hard at school and never really doing anything I shouldn't do. My mom always said that learning was my job, and so I took that to heart, and by the end of high school, I can say that in all truthfulness, I really couldn't have done much better. So when I applied for and received a full scholarship to attend university, I really couldn't turn it down. It was what we had spent our entire lives together working on. To, in any way, look that gift horse in the mouth would have been an insult to both of us. I had never really been away from home before. I hadn't done the trip to Grandpa's on the coast. We've been practically inseparable from birth. The result of this was that I would be leaving all of the security and comfort I had come to know and depend upon, and the thought of this terrified me. The final result is that I just had to do it. Once it was set in motion, I just had to do it. There would be no turning back. It wasn't so much that I was looking forward to it, I just had to do it.
When I was younger, I had a home. As everyone knows, a place of safety, a place of last resort. If there was nowhere else to turn to, home was always there for me. But then I turned out to be different. Well, I thought just a little different, but to my folks, I was very different. So different, in fact, I no longer belonged. I wasn't thought of as one of them. I was from another planet. I must have fallen from the sky. No way could I have been their daughter. Too big a rift to build a bridge over. So I moved in with my older sister. She'd moved out on her own. She had other issues with the folks. So she just let me stay with her without saying much about it. Except to her, I would always be her kid sister. That was enough. All that mattered to her, case closed. So when I finally finished high school, she was the one who was there for me. And when I walked across that stage, like all the others in nearly every way, she stood up and cheered for me like I was the only one she could see. And she was right about that. She was the only one who could see me and know me for who I am.
My story's a little different, I think. Nobody in my family had ever been to college before. I'd say no one had even thought about it before. It was so far out of reach that it was like thinking you were going to take a walk on the moon. But in 10th grade, I had a teacher who said, "Girl, you can do this." And I thought she must have been talking to somebody standing next to me. But she wasn't. She was talking to me. And she looked over the classes I was signed up for and she said, "No, you've got to take this class if you're going to go somewhere." And I kept thinking, where does she think I'm going? And as if she read my mind, she said, "You're going to college. You're too smart to miss that train, and it's going to be pulling out of the station, and you're going to be on it." So every semester, I'd come and show her the classes I was signed up for, and she'd say, "No, you've got to take this class." And I'd say, "Oh, that one's too hard." And she'd say, "If it isn't hard, it's not worth doing. For some people, it's all easy, but for you, at least at first, it's all going to seem hard, but it's never too hard." And so I continued to listen to her advice, and a couple of years later, she helped me get a scholarship because, without a scholarship, my family's never going to be able to come up with that money so I can take that walk on the moon.
My family was small,
just me and my mom who loved me. It didn't take long to know I was free to dream on, free to dream on, free to dream on. I put in the work and got the grades as expected. And when the time came, I knew I just had to do it. You had to do it. I had to do it. Got a ticket that I'm not giving up. Gonna get there, motorbikes, bus or truck. We're all on this ride together. We're gonna get there one way or another. Gonna be a joyous journey. Seize our part and right in front of me. Cap and gown finish for this gal. Gonna walk right through that final mile, all the way to the promised land. My oh my lordy, yes I can. I'm on my way, yes I am. Promised land's waiting, take my hand. Promised land's waiting, take my hand. Well, when I was young, so early, my life was different. Thrown out of the house, my parents just did not want me. They did not want you. They did not want me. I learned as a child, rejection is not so easy. It didn't take long to see I just had to go on. You had to go on. I had to go on. Got a ticket that I'm not giving up. Gonna get there, motorbikes, bus or truck. We're all on this ride together. We're gonna get there one way or another. Gonna be a joyous journey. Seize our part and right in front of me. Cap and gown finish for this gal. Gonna walk right through that final mile, all the way to the promised land. My oh my lordy, yes I can. I'm on my way, yes I am. Promised land's waiting, take my hand. Promised land's waiting, take my hand.
My childhood was hard. We didn't have much to live on. My clothing was old. Old hand-me-downs made me angry.
Made you angry.
Made me angry. We all worked so hard to keep our thoughts on the future. Now I've got the chance. I know I just have to take it.
You have to take it.
I have to make it. Got a ticket that I'm not giving up. Gonna get there, motorbike, bus or truck. We're all on this ride together. We're gonna get there one way or another. Gonna be a joyous journey. Seize be part and right in front of me. Cup and gown finish for this gal. Gonna walk right through that final mile, all the way to the promised land. My oh my lordy, yes I can. I'm on my way, yes I am. Promised land's waiting, take my hand. Promised land's waiting, take my hand.
Got a ticket that I'm not giving up. Gonna get there, motorbike, bus or truck. We're all on this ride together. We're gonna get there one way or another. Gonna be a joyous journey. Seize our part and right in front of me. Cap and gown finish for this gal.
Gonna walk right through that final mile,
All the way to the promised land.
my oh my lordy, yes I can. I'm
On my way, yes I am. Promised land's waiting, take my hand. On my way, yes I am.
promised land's waiting, take my hand.
Promised land's waiting.
The promised land's waiting. The
Promised land's waiting. The promised land's waiting. The promised land's waiting for me.
The three co-eds would settle in for at least a year together in the dorm room of their all-female college. Sometimes these relationships would last a lifetime. For others, they'd end with a sigh of relief and the knowledge that the dorm room assignments would be reshuffled, and only if they specifically requested it would they end up together next year. Well, for the present group, that determination was still up in the air. So far, they'd only been their brief soul-bearing, where they shared their past and how they could have come from such different backgrounds and then ended up living in a very crowded and confining environment where the close proximity to one another made it unlikely that all secrets would remain unshared. When you lived that close to someone, they'd end up seeing you for who you were. You could try to get around it by getting up before everyone so you could spend an hour or two trying to cover up things you didn't want the other two to see or know about you, but that approach proved too exhausting for all but the most insecure. The whole situation was awfully revealing. Your roommates were likely to see you emotionally naked as well as physically. Maybe this was why they were willing to share some of their innermost feelings in that initial encounter. It was all going to come out eventually. If you share things voluntarily, it leads to closer friendships and mutual respect and admiration. If you're just trying to hide things and they get found out later, you set yourself up for disdain and disapproval. This same process of initial encounter was going on another few miles north at a different school.
Hey, is room B6 around here somewhere?
Hey, roommate. I'm looking for B6 too. I think it's just down the corridor a bit further.
Here we are, after you.
How many trips do you think it will take to get you all moved in?
I packed sort of light. I figured I could buy stuff I needed once I found out what it was that I needed. I also got a car so I can go back home on the weekends and get more stuff.
I've got a car too. An MG.
MG, I'm driving a 57 Volkswagen bus, 36 horsepower engine. You know they're making the engines a lot bigger these days, but I think the old 36 was probably the best engine they made.
Little window in the back.
That's how you can tell the year. Every year they made the back window bigger. The smaller the back window, the older the bus.
Same with the Bug.
But lots of guys I hung out with in high school had sports cars. My favorite was my buddy's Austin Healey.
Sprite? Bug-Eye Sprite?
Better than that. It was a Le Mans, the best model they ever made.
Oh yeah, that was a car. Boy, could that thing ever corner. You could approach a turn at about 40 miles an hour and just crank the wheel without even slowing down. And that thing would just hold the road like a go-kart. Those cars will never go out of style.
I knew a guy who had an MG TD, British Racing Green.
TD? Yeah, that car was all right. But I think my MGA will outperform all those old T-Series. They looked great, but the handling was a little rough.
Everybody wants one, nearly. Everybody's got one.
What is it?
What is it? A cute little British sports car.
What do you mean precisely?
Do I have to say it nicely? You know what I'm talking about. There's the MGA and the MGB, the Spitfire from Triumph and the TRs 2 and 3.
The cars from Austin Healey really cover the side, with the Le Mans, the 3000, the ubiquitous little Sprite.
The Sprite, you know, when it came out later, was just an MG midget with a new nameplate.
MG got it started with the TCDF, with their boxy front ends. They were really something tough.
Don't know what was wrong with the letter E, but an MGTE is not a car you're gonna see. So I'm seeing the connection here is the letters being used instead of names. But then I guess Ford started it all with their Models T and A.
Good point. Why do you suppose the Model T came out 20 years before the Model A? Who was in charge of making up names at Ford? Didn't they know their ABCs?
JFK, LBJ, FBI, RFK, KKK, IRA, MLK, and CAA.
Wait, what are you going on about now?
Just naming other acronyms. There's more to life than cars.
SDS, CBS, NBC, LSD, AMC, DMZ, ABC, DOE.
If you're done, then what about the Morgan or the XKE? Now there's a real showman.
The Jag's a fine car, seats only 2, but a bit too pricey for the likes of me and you.
And don't even get me started on Corvette or T-Bird. Those were 2 attempts by us to join the trend, I've heard.
Sunbeam, Alpine,
Alfa Romeo,
Carmen Ghia,
2 of those are British.
we can bend the rules here.
The Mini Cooper seats more than 2 for sure, but the thing's so cute, we don't need to be so pure.
These cars will run forever and never give you pain unless you make the mistake of trying to drive them in the rain.
Everybody wants one, nearly everybody's got one.
You know what I'm talking about. A cute little British sports car.
A cute little British sports car.
I see you brought a guitar.
Yeah, I thought it might come in handy at some point.
You a music major?
Nah, I just started playing a few years ago, and if you take a guitar to a party, you can have a lot of fun if you can sort of play some of the current songs, top 40 stuff.
So what is your major?
Oh, currently I'm undeclared. I think they'll give me a semester or 2 to figure out what I want to do, and if I don't, I guess they'll kick me out of here, something like that.
I've entered as a history major. First couple of years, well, I'll be taking general ed, so I don't suppose it really makes much difference what your major is. We're liable to be taking the same stuff. Your major only determines what you'll be allowed to take up a division. I thought the history classes looked interesting.
Yeah, well, I like playing the guitar, but I'm not interested in all those music theory classes. I think they don't know much about what real music is about. For them, it's all about those classical composers writing symphonies and stuff like that. I'll take a street musician any day who writes about the real world, the one we're living in.
Sounds good to me. Do you write stuff too? How's that work?
Well, I'm thinking about writing some songs. I think if you know how to play guitar, you can probably write some songs. The most important thing is having the time to do it. High school took so much time, I didn't have time left to do much writing. But now we're only going to be in class a couple hours every day. I should have a lot of free time.
Yeah, well, let me know when you're going to do some writing. I'd like to see how you do that, unless it's something you do in private.
Oh, I think you can sit in on that. I don't think it's going to be too difficult. JFK, LBJ, FBI, RFK, KKK, IRA, MLK, and CAA.
Wait, SDS, CBS, NBC, LSD, AMC, DMZ, ABC, DOE.
If you're done, then what about the Morgan or the XKE? Now there's a real showman.
The Jag's a fine car, seats only 2, but a bit too pricey for the likes of me and you.
And don't even get me started on Corvette or T-Bird. Those were 2 attempts by us to join the trend, I've heard.